So this is a meeting that's in both English and French. President Tshisekedi, welcome to Chatham House. You are the first president of the Democratic Republic of the Congo to speak here. As I was explaining to you, in 1965, we did have a young military officer of the time called Mobutu Sese Seko, and he was predicting change in the Congo. A month later, there was a coup d'etat, and then history played its role. Thankfully, this time we have a democratically elected president here, and you're most welcome at Chatham House. This meeting is unfortunately going to be much shorter than we were expecting. His Excellency has a flight to catch, so we're not going to have a long speech. We're going to have an interactive discussion, and this meeting is fully on the record. So there are cameras taking photos, so if you ever heard of the Chatham House rule, you don't need to really know about it today. It's a public meeting. So with no more ado, I don't know if there are any Excellency key points you want to make in 5 minutes before we open up for a discussion, but please do keep it very short because we don't have much time. So I will hand over to you. Welcome to Chatham House.
Merci.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I salute you. As you know, I'm the President of the Democratic Republic of Congo since January 2019, 25th of January to be precise. And I come from the first political body in our country because since its independence, 30th of June 1960, there's never been accession to power at the head of this country as the one that just happened, in other words, through free democratic elections, and which led to which appointed the President of the Republic. So here I am. I am the first to be in this situation, and my aim will, of course, be to perpetuate the tradition. In other words, I want to make sure that after me, my successor is also elected, will also be elected by a free and transparent election. And in that way, we will be able to install a democratic tradition in the Democratic Republic of Congo. But in order to do so, I'm sure that you're well aware, we have to make sure that we have security. Because after all, from security emanates stability. But at the moment, I have a great deal of pain. With a great deal of pain, I have to tell you that our country is threatened. Our country is threatened. There are areas of instability which are because of the manipulation of our neighbors. Because after all, it's not an internal problem which is due to a political crisis, but it's very simply a situation that we are living through, that we've been dragging for the last 20 years. And in reality, since 1994, when there was the dramatic Rwandan genocide that everybody is well acquainted with, that the international community had asked the Democratic Republic of Congo to open up its borders in order to be able to receive the flow of refugees, so that we're running away from what was taking place in Rwanda. And sadly, amongst them, there were also the authors of the genocide, and they took advantage of their exile in DRC to reorganize themselves and to try to carry out attacks, in other words, to throw over once again the Rwandan regime. And that, of course, gave rise to a great number of crises between our two countries, and I won't go into it. But when, in fact, I'm going to see all my neighbors. There are 9 neighbors around Congo, but mainly Rwanda and Uganda, and our relations with those countries had been tough in the past, But I just want to say to them, look, let's just forget about it. Let's draw a line under it, and let's look at the future together. Let's look at the future in an optimistic fashion. Let's work on joint projects of joint interest for the well-being of our populations, of our respective countries, and also let us look together, let us see together how we can actually ensure a sustainable peace within the region, which will give rise to stability and encourage development. Because after all, it is a region which has an enormous amount of resources, mineral resources, agricultural resources, and it also contributes in efficient fashion to the fight that in fact is carried out by the whole planet at the moment. In other words, the fight against climate change in order to be able to preserve our planet. So, therefore, it's a vast territory to the east of Congo, which has an enormous amount of potential and which could be used for the whole world, the whole planet, with regard to everything that we're doing, everything we're fighting for. I've mentioned the environment, of course. There are minerals, strategic minerals, cobalt, and which, of course, are involved in the manufacture of electric batteries, amongst other things. So you can see that it's a region that really is very wealthy, and therefore it's certainly a region that also can encourage instability if we're dealing with people that are threatening. So that's why I put forward the idea that we really had to try to work hand in hand in order to be able to work on projects relating to development and projects of common interest that could actually preserve peace and reinforce stability. Sadly, that's not been the case, and it's a real shame what we're living through. So I was talking earlier on, I mentioned the environment, but at the same time, the Congo is 60% of the Congo Basin. The basin of the Congo represents, there's still 11 or 12 other countries, and altogether we make up the countries of the Congo Basin, and 60% of the forests are within our countries. And today, the Congo Basin is the first lung, really, as far as we're concerned. But our challenge today, the challenge that we're looking at, is that we have to do our utmost in order to be able to preserve this forest, preserve the Congo Basin, because it's a real help as far as dealing with climate change, but at the same time, it is in danger at the moment. It's in danger because of the conflicts that I mentioned earlier on, and those conflicts give rise to many people who are displaced populations, and I believe that the DRC today is possibly not necessarily the first, but amongst the very first countries that have the greatest number of internal displaced people. And therefore, that means that this particular environment, these forests, are also in danger. They're in danger because they're being destroyed today because of this human drama that we're living through. It's a drama that isn't the result of a political crisis within our country. I'd just like to accentuate that. But it's really the consequence of the voracious appetite of our neighbors and badly intentioned people who really push us to push us into that position. So that's what is at stake today within our country, that of security, that of the environment, and also, to finish, I'd also say that of relating to investments. The Democratic Republic of Congo has an enormous amount of potential. I talked about the mines. I haven't talked sufficiently about agriculture because, sadly, I have very little time. But once again, that's something that really is positive. We have almost 80 million hectares of arable land, and only 10% of those lands are currently being used. So they're farmed. So therefore, you see that really it's a vast domain. We have a major challenge, which is that of really succeeding in the national integration of the country through infrastructure, in other words, a building of infrastructure, because after all, Congo is a vast country and it's as vast as Western Europe altogether. So you see that it is enormous. It would be to build the roads, the bridges, and many other infrastructures in order to be able to succeed at this integration at a national level and a regional level, because after all, we do have that kind of ambition with neighboring countries to link the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean by going through Congo. So I'll finish there. Thank you very much for your attention, and I apologize that I have so little time because of the fact that I have to catch my plane. But thank you very much. And so now I hand back the floor to Dr. Alex Vines.
Okay, so plenty on the table that His Excellency has spoken about. We are short of time, so let's take some questions. And I will move around the table first. But we do have a moving microphone for those at the back too, or not? We do. So I will also go there. Let's go there first. Please press your button and ask your question. Do tell us who you are.
Yeah, Your Excellency, thank you so much. My name is Mansour Humayun. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Bbox. We're one of the largest provider of electricity in DRC. One of the questions I have for Your Excellency is in terms of the incentives that you want to create to actually promote energy access in DRC, and also the unique role that DRC plays from being one of the lungs of the world. What sort of role can climate finance play, especially when it comes to tax regime in the country to incentivize energy investments? Thank you.
So we just hold that one at the moment. There's another one here. I'll take three and then we come back to His Excellency the President. I know who you are. If you can press the button and move on, please introduce you.
Excellence, Monsieur le Président.
Excellency, Chair. My name is Kodi Uzong. I'm from Congo. I'm an expert in governance and the fight against corruption. I'm an international consultant on those topics. I've written a great deal about the DRC, about the fight against corruption, and my question is as follows. It's about a subject that you have emphasized, the security of the country. Without security, you said rightly that we won't be able to develop the country. So the question I have, Mr. President, is whether you believe that in order to solve the security issue, especially in the eastern part of DRC, Congo should rely on the very same people about whom you said that they are manipulating the situation in the region in order to take advantage of huge resources that are available in the Congo. Can you reassure us that your partners in the community of that part of Africa can contribute to building the peace that we all aspire to? Thank you very much.
So here, so we have I know who you are, but please introduce yourself. We will come back for one more round for sure.
D'accord. Bonjour.
Good afternoon. I'll also speak in French, Mr. President. My name is Annika van Woudenberg, and I'd like to ask a question about human rights, if I may. I come from Kolwezi, where we conduct studies about the right of workers, and we have been focusing on workers who work for major companies in particular, and we have witnessed a lot of violations of human rights, as well as very low pay, such as Glencore, such very large companies. I just wanted to know, therefore, if you've had any discussions with those large businesses about how they treat their workers and whether they can reassure you about this. Are you able to request a fair wages in order to foster development, economic development in Kolwezi? Because looking at all these electric vehicles on the roads in London, we know that cobalt comes from Congo.
Je vais d'abord commencer par
If I may, I would like to first of all answer the question raised by my compatriot about security. And on this, first of all, if I may rectify one point, I do not think that our hopes are based on contributions from those that we accuse of having committed these actions in order to establish security in our country. Our country has adhered to the East African community for economic reasons, first and foremost. Security aspirations are not something for which you join an organization. Usually we join forces with other countries to develop our capabilities and foster the well-being of our populations. However, as it happens, our country has experienced insecurity for about 20 years, and unfortunately some members of the East African community are at fault. This membership, to me, can actually allow us to put pressure on those countries so that they can put an end to activities and actions which destabilize the Democratic Republic of Congo, and that's where we might be able to succeed. But we're not asking for their help or relying on them. Kenya, Tanzania, Burundi are also members of the East African community, and yet they do not have any issues with the DRC. They don't destabilize our country, and they're also able to put pressure on Uganda and Rwanda, because those are the two main countries I have in mind, to encourage them to stop whatever they're doing against us. In addition, as the DRC, we also have to strengthen our defense and security capabilities, which is what I've been focusing on for a while now, with reforms and trying to mobilize more resources in order for our army to be better equipped, but also for our soldiers to be better trained and become a more professional army focused on the missions. Alongside this, we need to raise awareness amongst the whole of the international community. Of course, I said so at the United Nations. We all need to denounce the role played by Rwanda currently, and I count on international pressure from that point of view, and I expect sanctions also to put an end to that situation. So those are the means that we have at our disposal to try and create challenges for those countries who are trying to destabilize our country and have been trying to do so for many years. So just to reassure you, absolutely don't count or rely on those people. Now, the gentleman from B-Box, I believe, that's right, in Matadi, I remember having the opportunity to visit your stand at one point when I visited a fair which was around the launching of Lancer, which is the national agency providing energy to rural areas, and I really appreciated what you're doing, especially the kits that you sell. Those include multiple products wrapped up in one, and they produce energy, photovoltaic energy, and they go along with the delivery of domestic appliances. That's an initiative that we encourage. There are fiscal incentives for that, but of course we will need to have discussions with you, this industry is regulated by a special authority, and we need to get in contact with you, and we're very open to the idea in order to see how best to move forward on this. I certainly emphasized and encouraged LANCER's activities. We have mobilized a lot of resources to electrify rural areas in particular, and therefore the type of initiatives that you are offering are of great interest to us because, as it happens, we have a very ambitious program to further develop this sector. We have 145 territories or regions in the DRC, and the great challenge for us is precisely that. It's precisely to provide access to water and electricity for our people. So we remain very open to these initiatives. We're highly sensitive and very interested in those initiatives. And we will do our best to put into place all the required tax incentives to help you develop this further and extend your initiatives in order to cover as much of our population as possible. So you are welcome at any time to have these discussions with us. Now, about the question asked by the lady earlier on human rights, you are absolutely right. This is a question that very much close to my heart. I visited Kolwezi last year, if I'm not mistaken. I visited the Sycomine and Glencore sites. You could ask them. They know that my conclusions were very strict, very of great disappointment in the mines in Kolwezi. I saw children. I was very bitter after those visits, and I did ask the governor who was with me. I asked them where the children were going. I was told they were going to school, but I couldn't see any school in the immediate radius. They had to walk for miles to go to school. And when I reached the factory that I was going to visit, I immediately asked them about those children. And I said, I do not want to see this ever again. You are making billions, and you are living next to a population which lives in the greatest misery. So that's one of the economic consequences of their business. Now, on the social front, of course, there are implications. I did ask questions, but maybe, of course, they were worried about answering because the boss was present. I did ask them in what conditions they were working. I asked the employees directly, are you happy with your working conditions? Are you sufficiently protected when you go down the mines? Because you know that when you extract ores, some of them, such as uranium, are dangerous materials, or uranium residues might contaminate people. And I don't know if you know that in that region we have great challenges to do with the consequences of that extractive industry. We see birth defects in the region. There's also very dry conditions affecting vegetation. Some rivers are dry because something is happening. And I've had the opportunity of talking to the Council of Ministers about this and to the Environment Secretary and all Secretaries of State present. I mentioned the need to monitor this situation very closely and take the right measures. So my conclusion was very bitter after those visits. But it would be very helpful, Madam, if you could provide reports describing how workers are treated if they're victims of bad treatments, because that would allow us to challenge those large companies and force them to change their methods. But be reassured, at least, that my government follows this very carefully. We remain very vigilant. I constantly draw their attention to this. We are here to serve the Congo and the Congolese people, and the best thing we can do is to promote the well-being of the Congolese people.
Anybody there who wants to ask a question, this is your chance. Anyone in the back row there? No? So let's go for you there at the back, and that's the last question. If we can have a microphone, yeah? Just there. Yep, behind. That's it. Just one quick question, and then we're gone. This one, that's it. Yes.
Hi.
Yeah. Just please say your name and
Nicholas Namurit from Standard Bank.
Yeah.
So I look after European industrial conglomerates that have operations in Africa. So one thing that they've always mentioned is the challenges of barriers of entry to the DRC, and also whether there's going to be any further development outside of the mining space going forward, if there's going to be more openness in those markets for them to be able to invest and have physical presence in the country.
Mais je n'ai pas très bien compris la question. Donc,
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Future for the next few years in terms of openness and barriers of entry to the economy.
Opening the economy further. Yeah.
et c'est dans quel, vous parlez dans quel secteur minier?
In which sector?
Oui, bien sûr qu'il y a.
Yes, of course. We have a number of projects along those lines. The first one is to put into place a more favorable environment for business. And I can tell you that since I've come into power, I've created a unit very close to the President's office, which studies the business environment and gets in touch with marketplaces that are already present in Congo in order to listen to them, first of all, and to improve their working conditions, the conditions in which they operate. But that unit is also in contact with partners to keep them updated about the context for business in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So we have no concerns on this. There is a distinct change in the conditions in which people can do business in the country. We have taken a number of measures, for example, with regard to tax provisions in order to alleviate the tax burden, reduce taxes. And on the legal front, we have also taken legal measures to fight against corruption and simplify administrative and legal processes. So we are improving the business climate framework with that particular unit that I just mentioned. Some of its members are actually in the room today, and you are very welcome to receive all the information you might be interested in order for you to better understand what we're doing. Thank you.
I will invite you back to Chatham House so that next time everybody can ask their questions. So thank you to the President, his delegation, the Minister of Social Communication of Congo who's here. Thank you to the audience, and thank you to the translators. If you could all remain seated while His Excellency leaves also, thank you very much. Let's show our customary appreciation.